Thank you all for being here this evening for tonight's event, a reading by Amanda Fortini. I'm Krista Diamond. I'm a second year in the MFA in the fiction track. I'm also a program assistant at BMI. I'd like to start by thanking our sponsors, Black Mountain Institute, the Rogers Foundation, and the College of Liberal Arts. Now, please take a moment, if you have not already, to silence your cell phones. So as you all probably know, and we've got a packed house, so there's a lot of excitement for this, Amanda is going to be reading from a work in progress, Flamingo Road, a book she's currently writing about Las Vegas, which I'm very excited about as a local Las Vegan. Following her reading, she will take a few questions from the audience, so think about your questions as she's reading. I also want to mention we have an excellent lineup of events this spring at Black Mountain Institute. Next Thursday, UNLV alum Jean Chen Ho will be reading at this exact same time in this exact same room. It's free, it's open to the public, so hope to see you there for that. There's many other events as well, both in person and virtual, so definitely take a look at our website and see what appeals to you and RSVP for those events. And now with you, we would like to first acknowledge that UNLV operates from the city of Las Vegas, traditional homeland and unceded territory of the Nuuvi, or the Moapa Band of Paiute people. We encourage everyone in this space to engage in shared stewardship of the land and active learning about historical realities of colonialism and the indigenous peoples who continue to work and live on this land since time immemorial. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Amanda Fortini to you all. Amanda has written for the New York Times, the New Yorker, T, the New York Times Style Magazine, The Believer, California Sunday, Vanity Fair, New York Magazine, Rolling Stone, The New Republic, Elle, Slate, and the Los Angeles Review of Books, among other publications. Her pieces have been widely anthologized, including in Best American Political Writing and Best American Travel Writing, and she was a 2020 recipient of the Rabkin Prize for Arts Journalism. A previous Shearing Fellow, she is currently the Beverly Rogers Fellow here at the Black Mountain Institute at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where she also taught for several years at the Hank Greenspun School of Journalism and Media Studies. As you probably all know, she is writing a book about Las Vegas, Flamingo Road, to be published by Liveright. She divides her time between Las Vegas, Nevada, and Livingston, Montana. Now, please help me in welcoming Amanda Fortini.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay from here? Okay. Wow, this is amazing. It's like some of you are probably too young for this reference, but it's like an episode of This Is Your Life here, all these people. I really am so grateful to you all for coming. And before I begin, I do want to say thank you to a couple of people. I want to thank Colette LeBeouf, for the director of Black Mountain Institute, for having me her first semester as director. I'd like to thank everyone else at Black Mountain, Joshua, who does all the social media, Charlotte, Kellen, everyone who helped put this event together. I want to thank Miriam Shearing for my first fellowship here, which is where this book first the seeds for this book were first sown with the People of Las Vegas essay that I wrote during that fellowship. And I just want to thank also all the people who have talked with me about Las Vegas, informed my ideas about Las Vegas, Krista for introducing me, and last but definitely not least, I want to thank Beverly Rogers. She likes to keep a low profile, so I don't want to embarrass her, but she really is a true patron of the arts who has done for Vegas what the Medicis did for Florence, and I'm not even exaggerating by saying that. She has supported my work with the Beverly Rogers Fellowship, but also she's my friend. So I just wanted to call her out. I'm going to read for a bit, and then I'll answer questions. What I wanted to tell you is that this is the first essay in the book. It's a 6,200-word essay, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. I've worked on trying to cut it for days, and there's really no satisfactory way, to my mind at least, to cut it down. But I've tried to cut it so to include equal parts action, observation, and exposition. And the perfectionist in me, of course, wants to read the whole thing, but the entertainer in me would never subject you to a 45-minute reading. So don't worry. The book is not done. It's a work in progress, as Krista said. I'm working my way through it, and I can see the arc of it now. I had a couple things I wanted to tell you about this essay, which, as I said, is the first essay in the book. But I wanted to talk about how this essay is maybe slightly more personal than some of the other essays. And I want to talk about my reasons for that, because I have to introduce myself as a narrator and as the seeing subjectivity that's guiding you through the book. But we can talk more about that afterwards. And then the only other thing I wanted to say about this essay is you can see, for those of you who have read The People of Las Vegas, I start in a different moment in this essay, and you can see how my feelings about Vegas have evolved. So with that, I'm going to begin. This essay is called Commute. Now, if I don't go right up to the microphone, can you still hear me? Okay, good. Then I won't be leaning in then. Okay, it's called Commute, and it's the first chapter of Flamingo Road. There is a prologue, actually, but this is the first essay. Nearly all Las Vegas experiences, at least when one is a tourist, are like fables with similar contours. You get excited, you get there, you get disappointed, lose money, lose your dignity, lose yourself, you get out. This is usually a 3 to 5 day process, but in my case, hovering as I did in the strange purgatory between visitor and local, at once enchanted and repelled by the place, seduced and then spit out by it, the whole arc took 8 years. Somehow, I'm still here. I remember the moment early on in my time in Las Vegas that I decided I could not remain there, absolutely could not abide its insidious darkness and creeping chaos. I should have said, this essay is a little dark, but I meant to warn you. Insidious darkness and creeping chaos, its rapaciousness and barely spackled over sleaze. It didn't matter that I admired the city's refreshing lack of pretense, its honesty and fatalism about humanity's baser instincts, and its ability to maintain a stance of cheerful hospitality in the face of almost any situation, no matter how odd. Although this bleak epiphany occurred for me in the fall of 2017, it might surprise you to learn that it wasn't the shooting that sent me reeling, but an incident that preceded it 2 weeks prior. On an unnaturally warm mid-September day, in the rest of the country, temperatures were already cooling. But in Las Vegas, where the heat doesn't taper off until October, people I knew were still wearing oven mitts to drive. Roughly 2 weeks before what the papers would call the deadliest mass shooting in modern American history, a man climbed out on the roof of the Vegas Towers, the scruffy luxury high-rise complex in which I was living at the time, dangled his legs over the edge like he was sitting poolside at a hotel casino, and for the next 8.5 hours threatened to jump. I don't know this yet, late on a Thursday morning, later than it should be. I'm always running late to class. The 4th Thursday of the new semester, the 2nd semester I have taught college-level journalism in Las Vegas, where people can make more money stripping or valet parking cars than they can in jobs requiring a college degree. I don't know that in 17 days, 58 concert goers will die and more than 800 will be injured by another unhinged man shooting from another high-rise less than a mile from where I am standing, still dripping wet from the shower and about to make coffee at noon. I don't even know he's up there yet, thin and jumpy as an electrical wire. I only know it's 89 degrees already, hot enough that I am engaged in my frustratingly routine pursuit of rooting around for weather-appropriate professional clothing, and I am due on campus. One of my abiding preoccupations at that time was dressing to teach in the heat. It isn't a minor challenge. On this morning, as on most, I'm in search of a clean blouse that won't show sweat stains as I lecture, a humiliating fate that has already befallen me multiple times. I've had to teach, aware of pooling perspiration without raising my arms, like a marionette without a puppeteer before the most savage of audiences, college students. Light colors, which would seem to be suited to the heat, are out, as is silk. Sweat spreads on them like squalid little tea stains. But so is anything synthetic, as it traps the onion stench of nerves. The university has air conditioning in the classrooms, of course, but it is always limping along, barely working. And in any case, you must travel to campus in a car that has been baking in 100-degree heat. As I dress, I feel tired and edgy and aware of a sour, metallic taste in my mouth. I suspect it's from drinking too much coffee, which I have been mainlining to keep myself going, but the homeopath I consult says Las Vegas lacks the negative ions emitted by greenery. There are hardly any trees here, and tells me to buy several pink Himalayan salt lamps for my apartment. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Like a pack mule, I always carry multiple bags with me, laden with the notebooks I write in, the books I am reading, papers to grade, granola bars, deodorant, a crushed and dimpled old plastic water bottle, a natural pharmacy worth of supplements for any eventuality I might encounter, and a few sad stray almonds tumbling around in the mess of it all. On the late morning in question, I saddle myself with the bags and step into the carpeted hallway, stopping to lock my door. Across the hall, a phrase that stretches reality since it's only about an arm's length from me, I can hear and smell my neighbor, who in more than a year of living here, I have not yet seen, not even once. Inside his apartment, he listens to folk music all day. On this afternoon, the harmonizing tenors of Girl from North Country drift out, and Rachel Maddow or Lawrence O'Donnell all night while chain-smoking cigarettes, as the alternating scent of lit matches and the earthy aroma of tobacco emanating from his apartment indicate. When I complain to the women in the front office that my clothes and hair and furniture all reek like a dirty ashtray, they dispatch the building maintenance man to stuff some foam padding around the base of my door, a performative gesture that does nothing to deter the fumes. In the rickety faux wood paneled elevator, which lurches from floor to floor and occasionally stops working for days, weeks at a time, I am joined by a man with long, wispy blonde hair who is carrying a tiny shaved chihuahua in his arms like a baby. From the looks of his hairline, which either starts at or has receded to the middle of his head, he is in his late 40s. But his attire confounds this notion. He's dressed in a pair of blue novelty pajama pants printed with a repeating pattern of Cookie Monster, holding a chocolate chip cookie, and the words, accompanied by the words, "Me want cookie." The men who live in this apartment wear novelty pajama pants almost exclusively. Maybe they work nights or spend afternoons in darkened apartments playing Minecraft or Overwatch or online poker. Maybe they're unemployed. I guess at their circumstances, but can never be sure. I encounter this man frequently, and though I never learn his name, he tells me that his chihuahua is called Dalek, after the fictional extraterrestrial mutants in the television show Doctor Who. On this day, though, he looks directly at me as though he can't wait to spill the news and says only, "Did you hear about the drama?" In this building, on this particular chaotic corner of the universe where Flamingo Road meets Maryland Parkway, the drama could truly be anything. I've witnessed more than one robbery at the Walgreens across the street, multiple couples screaming at each other at top volume in public, and a naked man taking a sponge bath out of the trunk of his car. No, I say, what drama? Someone is out on the other building and he's going to jump, he announces. I look at his Cookie Monster pants, his long shoulder-length, wispy baby chick hair, and his imperious chihuahua, who seems to be sneering at me. And I try to make sense of what he's just told me. The elevator thuds to the ground with a bounce. Las Vegas is always presenting you with one of two scenarios, those that are so familiar and cliched that it seems like they could only happen in a television show or movie, and bafflingly novel situations like this one, for which you have no frame of reference and thus can't readily grasp. Neither feel real. I walk the 20 or so feet to the main door of the apartment complex and discover that it's locked. The police have sealed off the front of the building. Beyond the glass, I see a man in a police uniform standing sentry. Did they really lock us inside? The prospect causes my intense claustrophobia to flare. I head for the side doorway on the left. It's open, so I walk out of the building, leaving the man with the chihuahua and the other tenants aflutter, and head to the front to witness the spectacle for myself. On the roof of the west building, the one I don't live in, I see a shirtless man. He is compact and greyhound thin, his muscles visible, stretched, sinewy. He's perched on the edge of the building, waving his arms, flipping his waist-length black hair forward and back while yelling, though what he's saying I can't make out. His movements are frantic, erratic, the herky-jerky gestures of someone possessed by meth. He thrashes around like a headbanger at a metal concert to some internal music only he can hear. There's an elderly Filipino woman standing next to me, gazing upward, her weazened hand shielding the sun from her eyes. She's wearing red polyester trousers and a matching red Nehru jacket, an old-fashioned broad-brimmed straw hat on her head, like she's put on a sightseeing outfit to loiter around in this hot asphalt parking lot. He's on drugs, I tell her. You think so? She says. Oh, he's definitely high, I say. The man appears to be in his 30s or 40s, though from our vantage, he is tiny as a figurine, so it's hard to tell. He stands, jumps up and down a few times as though daring himself to slip, trip, or topple off, and then sits down on the ledge with a thud that reminds me of the building's temperamental elevator. Then begins alternatingly windmilling his arms around and bicycling his legs in the air, like someone doing an exercise video. He gonna fall, the elderly Filipino woman in the straw hat says. Not really to me. In his hand, the man holds a red cloth. It's his shirt, I realize with some squinting, which he has peeled off. He is waving it around like the red flag at a race car track, the one that stops the contest in an instant. This one has no symbolism. It's just blood red and meaningless against the blue late summer sky. A fleet of police cars have arrived, as well as a fire truck with some sort of trampoline apparatus they put beneath the spot where the man would likely land if he fell. I'm not sure it would help. He's 10 stories up. More old ladies have gathered and are looking at one another knowingly while pointing their cell phone cameras up at the man, taking the obligatory videos and photos. My own reportorial instincts kick in as I walk toward the building he's on, trying to get as close as possible. One of the receptionists from the leasing office, a roundish middle-aged woman named Nancy, tells me in her sternest voice, "Get back or the cops will make you get back." As though she's sent out a bat signal, a police car loitering about 50 feet away turns on its lights and starts gliding toward me, a reptile half submerged in water, presumably to chase me off. For several more minutes, I stay where I am, mesmerized by the man's maniacal movements, the feral, seemingly instinctive way he snaps his waist-length hair around with the force of his entire body, self-flagellation with his own whip. The police officers stand around idly, impotently, like everyone else in the parking lot. One of them is holding a megaphone. Why aren't they trying to talk him down, I wonder? Maybe that's an idea I've gleaned from action movies and after-school specials. Maybe that doesn't actually happen. Maybe I think they are wary of startling him. A newspaper article I will read that night says that the police tried to negotiate with him, but I see no sign of that. Then again, it's already noon. He's been up there, I read later, since 9:43 in the morning. As the man teeters towards the roof's edge, I am clutched by an intense, panicky fear. I don't want to see anyone fall to their death, and that's surely what's going to happen here. I like to pretend I'm a kind of fierce, hard-bitten reporter, but in truth, I am sensitive, anxious, neurotic, a human orchid. The kind of person who writes drafts of thank you notes, and rehearses difficult phone calls before making them. A few years earlier, I had reported from Aurora, Colorado, 12 hours after the movie theater shooting there, the mall parking lot still strewn with abandoned sneakers and discarded tubs of popcorn. And a year before that, I'd watched my mother-in-law turn pale gray as her spirit left her body in a hospital room in Des Moines, Iowa. Both experiences of death had spooked me in ways I had not been able to shake. I am terrified of absorbing any more darkness. I speed walk to my car. As dramatic as it seems to me now, in that moment, I am determined to get away, not only from this unsettling situation with the raving man on the high rise, but from Las Vegas itself. It's too harsh here, I think, too sordid, ultimately too tragic. When you live here long enough, you hear those stories, some of them probably apocryphal, but disturbing nonetheless. You read that 1,100 visitors die each year while visiting Las Vegas. Of those deaths, 67% are accidents, 15% are suicides, and 11% are homicides. You hear that hotel staff hustle sick, overdosing, or injured people off the premises so that if they die, it officially happens elsewhere. You hear that the dead bodies of the homeless people who live in the storm drainage tunnel under the city wash up in the Lynx casino parking lot when it rains. You hear all the time about the suicides, almost like a litany. There's some more about suicide in Vegas that I'm gonna skip here. The facile explanation for this is that Las Vegas is a city of desperation. Here, it's said people lose their savings, their wedding rings, as a cab driver once told my husband, and in cases where they get caught cheating or can't pay their gambling debts, all that was meaningful in their lives. It's also a city of anonymity where one can bob along, unrecognized in the crowd. If you die alone in Las Vegas, your family will never have to see your body. Then, too, it's a place that attracts those who have substance abuse and gambling issues. As the website of a local treatment center rather delicately put it, given the risky behaviors that attract certain visitors to Vegas, it is understandable that the county would struggle with issues related to health and safety. True. But I also think Las Vegas feels like a place without consequences, a way station where all the rules and limitations of one life and self elsewhere are temporarily suspended, where, again, nothing feels quite real. I suspect that a lot of people who kill themselves in Las Vegas actually love the city, as I will come to, love its lights and its freedom and its louche glamour, and want to be embraced by it to the fullest extent possible, however grim and morbid that sounds. I am haunted by a story I read years ago about a 64-year-old businessman who drove from Montecito in his silver Jaguar, checked himself into the Four Seasons Hotel, and shot himself in the head. He was found by a maid 5 days later, slumped in a chair, a suicide note in his briefcase. Las Vegas is one of his very favorite places, his wife of 3 years, with whom he was on the outs, told the Los Angeles Times. They always treated him like a king. He loved Las Vegas. I imagine him traveling to Las Vegas, a place that had given him happy memories, where he'd enjoyed a bottle of expensive wine with a perfectly orchestrated multi-course meal, bought shoes that looked spiffy on him, and had been treated well by service employees, made to feel important in ways he never felt in his life. I also think about the 30-year-old young woman mentioned in that same article who jumped off the 9th floor of the parking garage at the Aladdin, which is now Planet Hollywood. One stop and away I go, her pithy, oblique, and poignantly sunny suicide note read. Her mother told the paper that her daughter thought Las Vegas was beautiful. My cell phone rings, so I pile my collection of bags on the hood of my car, a 22-year-old persnickety silver BMW that often refuses to start, and answer it. It's my husband, Walter, calling from Montana to tell me that he's been following the whole grim ordeal on social media. The man has a Twitter account and has been tweeting most of the morning, plus the day and evening prior. Much of his paranoid, overwrought ranting has been directed at the apartment management, insinuating that they had somehow trapped him in the building, or presumably in his lease. Since early morning, he's sprayed a steady stream of agitated invectives at CNN commentators Anderson Cooper and Paul Begala, threatening that they must reply to him or else. He's also been filming himself on the roof via Periscope, which, for those who don't remember, was a Twitter function that allowed you to create real-time mini video clips, outtakes from your own life, bestowing even mundane moments with cinematic significance. His tweets and short videos have begun to garner national attention, a storm gathering speed, and a swarm of people, my husband among them, are following along online. Meanwhile, in real life, or IRL, as my students like to say, a crowd, noticing a man careening around on a high-rise and a horde of police cars in the parking lot, has formed on Flamingo Road. The yellow crime scene do not cross tape cordoning off the complex has created a crime scene where one does not yet exist. The Vegas towers are surrounded by a high wrought iron fence, and people are bunching up against it, peering through the bars like visitors vying to see the tigers at a zoo. I don't want to see anyone jump off a building, I confide to my husband. My heart has begun pinballing around in my chest. I say I'll call him later. I have to figure out how to get out of this makeshift holding pen and onto campus. He tells me I shouldn't leave. Werner Herzog would stay, he says, referring to the eccentric German filmmaker. Never has it been so clear to me that I am not Werner Herzog. The instinct to live and the instinct to observe are always in conflict for me. This is arguably true for most writers and artists. I tend to hang back and observe, letting events unspool with the thought that whatever happens, I can write about it. But today, some other instinct kicks in. And then my students are waiting for me. I imagine them loitering outside my office, sprawling around about the hallway, their bags and coats and hard plastic thermoses strewn around them like flotsam, my colleagues judging me for not showing up. My husband would probably start filming a documentary on the spot, but I am outwardly directed, unnaturally devoted to other people, codependent. Still, before I get in my car, I edge as far toward the building as the police barricade allows, point my iPhone camera up at the man, zoom in so he is grainy but legible, and snap a photo. To this day, he lives on my phone. Occasionally, I pull it up and look at it. The main gate of the complex that opens onto Flamingo Road, an east-west artery named for the Flamingo Casino, which is set on the corner where the thoroughfare meets Las Vegas Boulevard, is barricaded. So I drive around to a side exit. The security guard who usually occupies the front entrance, a middle-aged woman with a smoker's cough, is back there. I roll my window down. "Can I get out?" "Go left, then go right," she tells me in her hoarse voice. To the left, the police have blocked the exit with more yellow crime scene tape. I turn my car around and drive the 10 feet back to the security guard. "How do I get out?" I shout, sweaty, late, exasperated. "I don't know, hun," she replies in a throaty, irritated monotone that telegraphs this is not her problem. "I know as much as you." Again, I maneuver my car around and drive back to the exit, which leads to a small alleyway that eventually deposits you in the university parking lot. A police officer, a scowling 30-something man with a significant paunch, is standing in front of his parked car. I pull up near him and tell him that I absolutely must leave the complex now. I have to go to work. "No one is allowed to leave," he tells me, blank-faced and unyielding. How can they just trap us in here, I think? I feel wild, desperate. "I have students waiting for me," I say, and this seems sufficiently official enough to him to get through to him. And he removes one corner of the tape, holding it up like a limp yellow party streamer while I drive through. At the university parking lot, which is 2 blocks behind the Vegas towers, it's too dangerous to carry a purse and laptop at night, which is why I don't walk. I am met by more yellow crime tape. I feel like I'm in an absurdist play where there is no plot and existence has lost all meaning. I might be condemned to remain in this parking lot until the end of time. By now, I am wondering why I didn't just cancel class, but I have made an obscure commitment to myself and to my students that I would never miss one. I roll my car window down again to beseech yet another police officer, this one less paunchy, who is leaning lazily against his car, punching his mobile phone with one sausage-like finger. "How do I get through?" I holler. He tells me to drive underneath the yellow tape. "Not possible," I say under my breath. "It's too low," I tell him. "Try," he barks. Inexplicably embarrassed, what on earth did I think would happen if I ripped the tape anyway? I press on the gas pedal. My car slides underneath easily. In New York, on your way to work, your train might get stalled in a tunnel, your heart rate picking up speed as you sit there, trapped, avoiding the eyes of fellow sallow passengers and inhaling the stagnant subway air. In Los Angeles, traffic is often gridlocked on the freeway for miles, no matter how impotently you rage at the other cars on the road. But in Las Vegas, preposterously, there's a man threatening to jump off your building while tweeting at Paula Bagala. The city I came to know is not the Las Vegas of the Las Vegas of casinos and gambling, of service that genuflects for any desire. Or rather, it is that, but not only that. It is also a city where people get in their dented cars and drive to work every day, where the bleak aspects of reality exist right up alongside the humorous, the heavy, the humorous and the heavy aching parts. Neighbor the lighthearted, and the quotidian sits next to the sinister, the outlandish, the flamboyant, and outrageous. And there's more to the essay, but I'm going to end here.